Is anybody there? I'm retrying one more time here to see what's going on because something is not correct with something's not right here. That's very weird. So it's 48 seconds. There's two people there. If you guys can hear me, click on it. I just went live a second ago and it didn't work. It didn't really build an audience at all. As if there's something wrong. I think we're back, John. I'm not sure why it's doing this though. But it doesn't matter. We are back. Hey, everybody. Okay, I think it's starting to pick up now. You guys can hear me okay, right? There we go. Now it seems like it's working. Notice me from Montreal. I noticed. There we go. You guys can share. Isn't there a share button on there where you can share it with your friends? Czech Republic, Syria. Oh man, we got every place. Brazil. We got anybody like from Siberia or any place like that? Or how about somewhere in the Indian Ocean? It always amazes me how far this thing can go out. Norway, we're doing New Delhi, India, and that's pretty far away. Virgin Islands, okay, Australia, there we go. Indiana, Ukraine, oh man, Chile, look at this is insane. Israel, Newcastle, Argentina, New York City, Hartsville. Wayne, what's up, Wayne? I thought you were doing a session today. Baltimore, boy, that's moving fast now. Oh man, now we're cooking. Egypt, there's a question mark. You're not sure if you're in Egypt. Bulgaria canceled for this. There we go. You canceled for this, Wayne. Now you're talking. Finland, down the street. Dennis, okay. The moon. I like the moon. Okay, so let me do some announcements first to start out. Had a couple really cool guests over the past. We got a lot of great guests on Sounding Off over the past 4 weeks now. It's been, I think, since I did the first one with Steve, and we've had a great group of people, including Victor Wooten yesterday. That was a really, really interesting interview. Fantastic. He's the greatest guy you'll ever meet. And he had a lot of really fantastic insights, I thought. We got some other good ones coming up. I think I've shot about 5 more that are unedited. So there are some really surprised people that you're going to dig. And I'll throw this out there again. Some of these people have come from you guys, for example. Dennis Chambers came from a guy named Skip. And Skip is really good friends with Dennis. So if you guys are friends with any film scoring people, famous musicians, whoever, any genre, rock, jazz, if somebody knows Jimmy Page and wants to get him on here, I'll take Mick Jagger, I'll take Keith Richards, or if you know Chick Corea, or if you know Frank Gambale, anybody, send me their email. I'll reach out to them, but write to me at my email, rickbeato1 @gmail, and let me know. Obviously, do not put it in here. Herbie, I think I got the Herbie thing under, if you know Herbie, send it to me. I think I have Herbie's email, though. So we've got, like I said, I've got probably 5 more in the can. I'm waiting to finish editing them before I put them up. So I think you'd be surprised. Anyways, so I did an ear training video the other day that seemed to get a pretty good response. What I wanted to do was to show you guys how I think about ear training, some of the concepts that I use, and show you how Dylan figured out these chords or knows these chords. Now, you guys know that Dylan has perfect pitch. But even if you have perfect pitch, these chords that are really, really complex, usually for a person with perfect pitch, it'll take multiple strikes of the chord in order to identify them. And when I was working with Dylan, he was a small kid. I never work on ear training with him, ever. The only thing that we've ever talked about is theory, and we rarely talk about that. I made Dylan learn all the triads. That was the first thing. I made him memorize the notes that were in the triads. When he was 5, that was it. That was that, I did major, minor, diminished, augmented, suspended, 4, Lydian. I did Phrygian triads. I did Locrian triads. I did Lydian triads and sus2 triads. Because you'll hear him identify these chords by those ways. If he hears that chord, he says, oh, this is D sus2. Okay? Now, in order to know that's a D sus2, you can hear and say, that's a sus2 chord. Da-da-da. You can hear it. But you could say it's D-E-A, but you don't necessarily know it's D sus2 unless you have unless you have the knowledge of how the chord is structured. So there is a lot of theory you need to know in order to improve your ear. One of the things that I've been teaching on here is music theory. And if you go back to my early videos, I started out with triads. Now, many of you don't realize that I have 200 and some odd videos here. And I would encourage you to go back and watch the old videos, okay? Because there is information that I have not repeated again because I figured that, well, there's no point in repeating this because I've already made videos on it. But I realized that I've tried to put them in playlists, but there are so many that unless I point you to them, you don't necessarily realize this. So I would suggest going back through and listening to or watching some of the early videos on triads. This is where this began because you can't disconnect music theory from ear training because they are one and the same things. If I play a scale, I just played a scale, a C major scale, but I left out a note. What note did I leave out? Well, it could have been a major scale. It could have been a Lydian scale, right? Okay, if I did, that would have been a Lydian scale. If I would have been a major scale or Ionian scale, Ionian mode. But if I did this, that would be a C major pentatonic scale, okay? If I play, that's a C Aeolian scale. Now, you have to know how these scales are formed, what the notes in them are, in order for it to register what it is. If you don't know that this collection of notes, if you don't know that formula, you won't know that's an Aeolian scale, even if you have a great ear and you can hear those notes, even if you have perfect pitch. If you don't know the theory, if Dylan, he could say, oh, you're playing C, D, E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat, C. And that's all he'd be able to do. Well, that doesn't do you any good. There's absolutely perfect pitch is useless without an understanding of what you're hearing. So I always say that you have to think first, listen, absorb, then you do your analysis of it. I call it sorting. You're sorting. So when Dylan is doing this, he's sorting through a bunch of different parameters. Are there chords built in thirds? And I demonstrated some of the chords. I went back, I cut the chords out of the videos, I relearned what I played there, and then I showed him on the keyboard. And the first chord we started with, which I had a mistake in, and everyone has to point out that I wrote A flat when it was A natural. And I have typos occasionally, but you can't fix them anymore on YouTube for some reason. You can't do annotations. But I played this chord, which is, this is complex. I'm going to get to some simpler ear training here in a second. But there was the sorting in this chord is basically saying, okay, I hear two distinct augmented chords. That's what you hear, that one, and you hear that one. That's a D flat augmented, that's a C augmented. Now that's a super complex chord. As soon as I played it for Dylan, that first video was Dylan was 7 or 8. And he instantly, when he heard it, he's like, oh, that's C augmented over D flat augmented. It's that fast. He didn't have to say D flat, F, A, C, E, G sharp. Now, he could have said that, but that's way slower than the ability to just recognize instantly, I hear those two triads, and I hear the C augmented on top of. When I say over, it means on top of or above in pitch the D flat chord. Now, there are many different types of chords like this that you need to hear and learn before you learn these things. But this is actually made up of a simple chord. It's made up of two augmented chords. Well, if you break it down to the first set of triads, major, minor, diminished, and augmented, if you know those, you're about halfway there. I'll show you why. If I play let's say I play a chord like this. Does anyone know what this chord is? Okay, this is a B diminished chord, but if I put a G on it, it becomes a G7 chord. Okay? Now, if I do this, this is a D diminished chord. What's going on, Dylan?
Hi, Daddy.
What are you doing down here?
I just wanted to come and see what you were doing.
Oh, I'm making a video, Dylan. I'm actually talking about triads, and I taught you triads first. So, remember when I taught you all the triads? I made you memorize them and recite them and write them down on a piece of paper. I
think I remember that.
See,
I'm not sure.
I did it when you were 5, so you don't even remember anymore, right?
No, not really.
Can you sing an A flat?
A flat.
Anyway, so there we go. Are you going outside right now? What are you doing?
I'm not sure, actually.
Okay.
I might go outside, I'm not sure.
Okay, I'm doing this right now. This is live.
I know.
Okay, so just stay off the internet for a little bit, okay? I'll be up in a little bit.
I know.
We'll do something, okay?
Okay.
Okay, you can go back upstairs. Sorry. Oh, boy. Anyway, so Dylan doesn't even remember this, that I made him memorize how the chords are spelled for all 12 major, minor, diminished, and augmented triads. That was the first thing he did. So I'd draw a sheet, and I'd write down, always in the circle of fifths, C, G, D, A, E, B, F sharp, and then I go to the flats, D flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, A flat, E flat, B flat, F. So I always go around the cycle of fifths and make them learn it like that. Then I'd make columns, major, minor, diminished, augmented. Or sometimes I would make them major, augmented, minor, diminished. And I would make him do them differently so he would see the relationship between them. So in doing this, it started to develop his mind in order to take his perfect pitch that he had and start to be able to sort chords, okay, sort harmonic devices. Now, a lot of you are saying, well, what about single note lines? Well, I always teach harmonic intervals first. I think it's the most important to understand harmonic intervals because they're much more difficult to identify, because a harmonic interval are things like this. When you play a minor seventh interval like this, and I play them both at the same time, you have to hear them. If I play, well, it's much easier because you can distinguish the notes. So what you want to do is you want to be able to pick apart harmonic intervals or chords. These would be dyads if I play two notes at once, triads, and then you have 4-note structures, 5-note structures. That's the first thing to do. You need to be able to pick out chords that are 3-note triads. So the chords to pick out are major, minor, diminished, augmented, sus4, Lydian, sus2, Phrygian, and Locrian. That's all the triad groups that I would have him memorize. Those are pretty much all the different combinations that you can make without having inverted chords. For example, if I take a C major chord and I say, okay, well, I'm going to flat the third, I'm going to raise the fifth. Well, I've just made a second inversion or first inversion A flat major chord, right? So that doesn't really constitute a triad. It does constitute a triad, but it's an inverted triad. It was like when I was doing triads over bass notes, that video from last week, where I talked about the triads. If you take a chord, I took E major in that video, and I put different bass notes under it. So if you put E under it, or G sharp, or B under it, it's always going to be E major because those are still 3-note structures. But any other chord, when I put F under it, it's a tonic diminished chord. Okay, if I put G under it, it becomes a 13 flat 9 chord, or a chord from the dominant diminished scale. Okay, so just like if I have a C chord and put A flat in the bass, okay, that's a flat 6. If you think of C up to A flat, that's a Lydian augmented chord. So a major triad with a flat 6 in the bass is a Lydian augmented, or a major 7 sharp 5 chord. If I did a minor triad like G minor and I put the 6th in the bass, let's say C, a major 6th in the bass, it becomes a half diminished chord. So an E minor 7 flat 5 or an E half diminished chord is a minor triad with the 6th in the bass, the major 6th in the bass, okay? And if I go to an A7 flat 9 chord, all I did was I flatted and I made this a G diminished chord over A. So really, A7 flat 9 is a G diminished triad over A. So you can simply do your minor 2-5, 2-5, and then I went to a minor 6-9 there. Now, first thing to recognize are these triads. So I would go through and say, practice all of your triads like this, either doing it. I have an ear training, 14 video ear training series coming out. It's not done yet, but when it does, one of the videos is going to be recognizing triads, okay? The next thing you want to recognize is 7th chords. You have to be able to identify a 7th chord in root position, 4-way close. So major 7th chord, okay? If I flat the third, it becomes a minor major 7th chord. And what you need to do is and if you raise the third, it becomes a major 7 sus4 chord, okay? So I would go through all the different permutations of this. Major 7th, minor major 7th, then I flat the 7th, I can make it a minor 7th. Minor 7 flat 5, diminished 7th. You go back to major 7th, make it major 7 sharp 5. You can go back to major 7th, you can make it a major 7, a sus2 major 7, which means it has no third in it, okay? You can, this is all within the octave, so you have to master all the 7th chords within the octave. So, in addition to major 7 sharp 5, you want to do major 7 flat 5 as well. Okay, so I would go through all the permutations of this, including the suspensions, the Lydians. That's a Lydian major 7. That's a Lydian flat 7. So you got the Lydian triad with a major 7th, or the Lydian triad with a flat 7. Okay, you can do a major 7, then you could go, okay, well, what if I go with a sus2, and then let's say if I add that note in there, what does that become? Well, these are the things that then you want to start exploring these things. Where are the different places you can go using different triads? Okay, so there, if I take a major chord, I flat the third, make it a minor major 7, and then I flat the 5th. That becomes a diminished major 7th chord, which is one of the upper extensions of a diminished chord. And if you go watch one of my 3 diminished videos one's called What Every Pro Knows About the Diminished Scale, I go through all the upper extensions of a diminished scale. So I take an F diminished chord, and I take the upper extensions. So G, the note G would be the major 9. You should be able to recognize that. That is called the diminished major 9 chord. Then B flat, here are all the upper extensions. So B flat is the 11, then D flat is the flat 13, and then E is the major 7. So you get a diminished major 9, diminished diminished with the 11th, a diminished with flat 13, diminished 7th, flat 13, and a diminished major 7th. Okay? So, being able to recognize these, this is just the simple stuff here. We haven't even talked about modal chords. We haven't talked about all the different triads over bass notes. The next thing I would move to is to master all the major triads over bass notes, okay, and the formulas and what scales they come from. If I take a C major chord and I put a D flat in the bass, it is from the diminished scale, okay, the tonic diminished scale. Because really, this is kind of what I was talking about. When I did the I'm talking about the diminished major 7. Well, if you look at the D flat chord, okay, over C major over D flat, it's really like a diminished major 7 chord, and it comes from the tonic diminished scale. Okay, if I did the 9th in the bass. Okay, so I've got a C major over D. That's a D11 chord. Okay, and you should be able to recognize that. You hear that in jazz all the time. You hear it in 70s music more, but that's a dominant 11. It's got the 9/11. If I did the flat 3rd in the bass, okay, this is the dominant 13 flat 9 chord. And then you put that's got the 3rd in the bass. So then you go up here to F with the 4th in the bass, and you have a major 9 with no 3rd, because there's no A in it, right? So this would be a major 9, but this is a major 9 no 3rd, or a C over F chord. If I put F sharp in the bass, or G flat, then I get a dominant 7 with a flat 9 flat 5. If I put G in the bass, it's a second inversion C major chord. If I put A flat in the bass, it's an A flat Lydian augmented chord, or C over A flat. I put an A in the bass, or the natural 6. This is the flat 6 in the bass. The natural 6 gives me an A minor 7. Then with the flat 7th in the bass, it's a C7 chord in 3rd inversion, or it could be a B flat Lydian sound. If I put a B in the bass, that could be a C major 7 in 3rd inversion, or it could be a B Phrygian chord, or a B Locrian chord, because either scale will work. Because if I look at the chord here, there is no 5th here, because it could be this, or it could be this. If it was this, that would definitely be a Phrygian chord. That would be a Locrian chord, okay? All right, so those are triads over bass notes. So you should be able to hear those next. That's the next grouping of chords to hear. This takes years to do. This isn't something you just wake up and do. You don't just wake up and say, okay, I've mastered this today, I've mastered this tomorrow. This takes repeated hearing of these things to be able to recognize that this chord is a Lydian augmented chord. Okay? Takes a long time. When I play chords like this, that's a polychord. That's B major over C major. I did that in the video. And I said, when Dylan heard that chord, that was part of one of the polychords I did for him. I think if I remember what it was something like this, and then I did this. And I said that when Dylan hears this first chord, he instantly recognizes that's B major over C major, okay? He knows that sound. He knows the sound of two triads together that are half step apart. If you listen to it, the way to practice it to hear this, I did it for a second in the video. I take a C major chord, and then I move down that major chord. I just move down a half step, okay? And then it's B major, wow. It's actually a really beautiful, it's a polychord, but it's a polychord that you could actually use even in a pop song. Da 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 da. Right? You can easily write a great. Right? So being able to recognize that instantly, and then I go up here, so he's like, I already got that. That's already sorted. And then boom. I instantly hears two triads there. I hear a D sus2, I hear an E flat major chord. Now, perfect pitch helps with that. But many people with perfect pitch can't figure that out. Could never figure out a chord like that. It would take them, 8 chord strikes or something to do, or however many notes there are in the chord. I mean, I think there's 12 notes in that chord. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's, I think, just about the whole chromatic scale is in there. So I don't expect you to be able to do that. But what I expect you to do is be able to recognize basic triads first, basic seventh chord seconds. This is after you've mastered your intervals. That's the first thing, your dyads. So I did this exercise in the ear training video. I'm trying to think when I did this. I can't even remember now. I did a video where I talked about, or maybe I was just teaching this the other day when my cousin was here, but to learn intervals, always learn on both sides of the interval, whatever it is. If you're trying to learn major thirds, you got to learn a major third up and a major third down at the same time. So you take a chord that's structured with 2 major thirds, which is an augmented chord. Stay in the middle note and go da 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 da, and then you've got it. You got major third up, major third down, and then you understand both ways. Most people are bad at singing descending intervals, okay? To learn minor thirds, you take a diminished chord, da 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 da, okay, and you practice it. You play the inner note, and then you practice up a minor third and down a minor third. And you should be able to do that just by playing anywhere on the keyboard. You should be able to take a diminished chord. If I play da 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 da, once you do that, once you practice that a few times, you'll get it. Okay? And stop trying to memorize intervals related to My Bonding Lies Over the Ocean or Here Comes the Bride. Learn what the sound of it is, because that is really the key to ear training. Just memorizing the sound. It's the key to rhythm reading as well. I have a video coming out on rhythm reading. To be a great rhythm reader, you have to memorize what rhythms sound like. They have to be memorized, okay? And I'll take groupings in the video. I actually have it done. I just haven't put it out yet. If you take all the permutations of 4/16 notes, including rests, okay, then and memorize what they are. You've got 4/16 notes. So if it's da 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 da, right? Then you could have the combinations of an eighth note, 2/16, 2/16 and an eighth, a dotted eighth and a 16th, a dotted 16th and an eighth, a dotted eighth 16th, a 16th dotted eighth. Any of the different permutations of those 4 notes. Rest 3/16, a 16th rest. Eighth note rest 2/16, or eighth note rest 16th rest. So you need to understand all these in order to, and have them memorized in order to be able to read them, because you don't read one note at a time. You have to read in groups, just like you don't read every letter of a word, okay? Being a great reader involves reading like you do as an adult, or once you become a level Z reader in school. That's what they call, usually with 3rd graders or 4th graders, they get to level Z. It's the highest. It's a particular system of grading reading where kids are tested on sight words, okay? A sight word is a word like and, but, or, this, that. I mean, things that are high repetition words, high frequency words. the words that are in every sentence. Those words are not sounded out by kids. They're memorized, and they're called sight words. Well, as an adult, when you're reading words, reading a paragraph, you're reading all sight words because you know what every one of them, unless you have to look up a word, you pretty much know what every single word is. So you don't just read one word at a time. Your eye keeps glancing. You're not reading one letter at a time. You're reading groups of words, okay? You might be reading one word at a time, but your eye keeps scanning ahead, okay? So the same thing is with rhythms. You shouldn't be looking at rhythms and saying, what is this rhythm right here? No, it should be memorized and your eye is looking ahead always. You're always looking to the next grouping. Just like you might be able to grab 3 or 4 words at a time when you're reading a sentence. Okay? You should be able to grab 3 or 4 groupings of rhythms, and you should be sorting these, and they should be memorized. This is how you get to be a great reader. It's by memorization of rhythm patterns and what they sound like, okay? So like I said, I have a video on this where I demonstrate this. The same thing is true with ear training. You have to be able to sort different things. You have to be able to sort first triad or first dyads, 2-note chords, okay? Those are intervals. The best way to learn them is to learn them with triads, though, is to say, is to do these exercises like I'm talking about. Always sing above and below the note. So if you're going to do, if you're going to work on minor 7s, I would put 3 minor 7s, or minor second. If you're going to work on minor seconds, I'd put 3 minor seconds together. Okay? And I'd take the middle note. Da, da, okay? Then I take major seconds and put them together. Middle note. So then I would put minor thirds together, which is a diminished chord, major thirds together, which is an augmented chord. Then I would put fourths together, which would be a quartal harmony. Okay? Somebody said if Bach was listening, he'd be going crazy. If Bach was listening, he would just be telling me the notes. All Bach's family for generations were all musicians. They all knew this. Bach knew his intervals. So he wouldn't be saying anything. He'd be saying, go, Rick, go. Yeah. Then you go to compound fifths, okay? Or you go to the tritone. Tritone's easy because the tritone is the same on both sides. If you play F sharp and you go up a tritone, it's to C, and if you go down a tritone, it's to C. Then you go to compound fifths, okay? Then you go to compound minor sixths, and compound major sixths, compound minor sevenths, compound major sevenths. Play the middle note, practice up, practice down. Forget about mnemonic devices, forget about matching them with songs. It's a waste of time, and you really can't find songs with a descending major seventh. So that is the grandmother chord. Oh, I keep forgetting to do. I'm going to do a video on the grandmother chord. There's a grandfather chord too. If you practice them equally above and below, then you will have them mastered. In addition, you will be able to recognize things like this, like chordal harmony. You'll know, okay, that's an F chordal chord. You might not know it's F, but you'll instantly recognize it as a chordal chord or as a quintal chord, 2 perfect fifths together. And then your ear will start to recognize those sounds. So if McCoy Tyner's playing, or if he's, playing, if he's playing a line like that, you'll say, what note is that? I hear those 3 notes. What are these 2 notes? And then you'll say, that's the 5th, and that's the 3rd. And you'll say, okay, if it's F, then I'm playing C and A there, okay? By recognizing I've got a chordal voicing, F, B flat, E flat, then I played a C there, then I played an A there. And you start to recognize these sounds, okay? So, super, hyper, mega, meta, Lydian chord. That you know that's just all just mumbo jumbo made up. That's a joke that he did, right? Anyways, I think what's he do? He just starts going with a raised fourth and then picks it up each time. The super, hyper, mega, meta, Lydian scale or something. Anyways, chords in fourths, chords in fifths. Then you need to recognize progressions, okay? Because progressions are really key. But progressions depend on intervals. If I have a progression, okay, well, what did I do there? It's this first chord, the one chord. Well, it's not the one chord, actually, right? It sounds like a one chord because I start and end on it, but if I go to B flat, if I'm in C and I go to B flat, you already know you're not in the key of C, okay? You're really in the key of, what key are we in? If we have C, B flat, and F. Okay? But C is really, sounds like the tonic though, right? So really you have 1 to flat 7, right? To 4, because you can hear that playful cadence to 1. And being able to instantly notate these. When I would go on a session in Nashville, a demo session, I did some writing over in 2014. I'd go up once a month and go write for couple days in Nashville with some of all the top writers there. And I went on some demo sessions. Now, all my songs that I co-wrote with them, I did the demos on. But I went to, I've got some friends that were doing demo sessions at one of the demo studios there. And they have studios that are literally dedicated towards demo sessions. And they'll do 4 3-hour blocks during the day. And there will be guys that play on demo sessions every day of the week. And they, one of my buddies, David Labriere, he was playing on one of the sessions. He's a bass player. He played bass on John Mayer's first few records and toured with him on his first tour. So David was playing in the session, and the producer was Ilya Toshinsky. He's a great banjo player, mandolin player, acoustic guitar player, and he was producing the session. And so I'm sitting there watching. So they come out, they play the demo, the songwriters play the demo, and there's always 3 guys. There was always 3-way co-writes. So it'd be the 3 songwriters would get in the room. They play the tracks for the guys in the band, and this would be the same when I do sessions up there on, like with Need to Breathe, for example, and we'd use some session players. The leader of the session would always go out and he'd write the lead sheets out. So he'd listen to it and he'd use the Nashville numbering system. Well, the Nashville numbering system is simply what chords they are in the key. If they deviated from the key, most of them would not deviate from a key. It'd be 4 1 6 5, things like that, and they would literally just write those numbers down. They would make a chart out that they would do. They'd put measures on it, and if there were rhythm kicks, they would write slashes with the rhythm markings. The leader that got paid double scale, the leader of the session it would always be one person would get double scale. They'd Xerox it or whatever they would do, and they would go and they would take this and pass it out to all the guys in the band, and they would do their parts. They'd improvise their parts to these songs. They'd listen to the demo first, and then they would make up their own parts. And they would do this. And I remember asking David, I said, how many songs will you play on a day? He says, 17 or 18. So they would actually literally be playing on people's songs. And these guys would never make mistakes. Okay? They'd read their charts. They used the Nashville numbering system, which is basically your Roman numeral system. And you'd have to know, you'd say 1, flat 7, 4, 1. So that if you wanted to transpose it to a different key, you could. Instantly, because sometimes you'd be like, you know what, I want to transpose a different key. That usually is more on sessions when you're working with singers. On the demo sessions, they would I don't think I ever saw them transpose. I sat in a bunch of demo sessions. I never saw them transpose songs there, but that's the whole point of the Nashville numbering system, is so that they can transpose. Okay, so you want to learn progressions. That's the next thing to do. But the progressions depend on your knowledge of intervals. And your knowledge of intervals, because you can know that this is a major chord, this is a major chord, this is a major chord, and this is back to a major chord. But if you don't know what the relationships of them are, if you go ba 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 ba, so if you don't know that those first two chords are related by the first chord going to the second chord is moving down a whole step, or a major second, and then down a perfect fourth, down a perfect fourth, or up a perfect fifth. Okay? So, progressions are related to intervals. Lines, same thing. If you have a linear thing, if I'm playing something, that was out of one of the Kenny Barron videos that I did. I did a video called Meldau, Barron, and Essen. And and I think that maybe people didn't watch it because they didn't know what it was, but it's the last names of three great jazz pianists. And like Charlie Banakis, there you go. Three great jazz pianists. I have something on Charlie Banakis coming up too. I'm on one of my videos with one of my interviewees, because he studied with Charlie and he talks about Charlie. Anyways, in order to know what this line is, there's a few things you have to know. There's a structure that I'm playing there. That's an add 9 chord. But you have to know, I did not study with Charlie. No, I never met Charlie. But I have a lot of friends that study with Charlie. Did two people just ask me that? Yes. Mike Stern, Brecker. I don't know if Brecker did. Mike Stern, yes, I think so. But that's not who I interviewed, no. Anyway, so I did an E add 9 arpeggio, right? Starting on B over F. So Kenny uses it as a sub. He's kind of implying just E major over F, but he plays an E major add 9, so it gives you really cool. And then he comes down. He comes down A add 9 after that. You should go watch the video. It's great. It's called Meldau, Barron, and Essen. And I have transcriptions of lines from all three guys. And they're super complex. And I have the music right there. You can screenshot it and learn them. You should learn those lines because they're great. I have a new Alan Holdsworth video coming out too, by the way. I was transcribing something this morning that I'm working on. So as soon as I can play it, I'll do the video. But I wanted to throw that out there too. Lines, modal chords. That's another thing to understand. And these are the things that when Dylan's doing videos, doing these chords, I mean, he's doing modes because he names some chords, like one of the chords here. He's like, and now he'll sing da 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 da, right? D flat, A flat, F, G, B flat, E flat, A flat. Now you can name the notes like that, or he can say it's a D. He called it D flat Lydian because that was the most logical explanation. It's got just about every note of the scale in there, of the Lydian scale. It's obviously got a D flat major triad at the bottom, and then it's got that note there, and you have this major second interval there. So to him, the fastest way to sort this is to just say D flat Lydian. That was the first thing that came to mind. He's listening. He said, "Okay, that's not a chord that has a triadic structure to it." He heard the triad in the bass, okay, but when he heard this, that quartal chord there, it's a B flat quartal voicing, okay. So it's B flat, E flat, A flat. So he said, so there was no way to analyze it. He's making these split-second decisions. There was no way to analyze this as a triadic harmony. Okay, so he said first instance was D flat Lydian, and that's just sing the notes. D flat, A flat, G, F, B flat, E flat, A flat. Now that is a feat to be able to do that. Now I don't have perfect pitch, but I can hear da 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 da. I can hear those notes. I hear those intervals there. And that's something that you can get to by training your ear. That's literally practice. What age did I start training Dylan? I realized he had perfect pitch when he was 3. And I never once played a note, said, Dylan, this is a C. I did not do that to him. Never. I just played him music and interacted with him. I played the playlists of our app Neural that we have out there that has a lot of Iden Essen music in it. So over half of it is Iden's improvisations. And Iden's music makes babies smarter. And Iden's improvisations are so complex but yet so melodic. But the unpredictability of it, babies learn through things that change. They don't learn from things that they can predict. If you can predict a chord progression, if you know where it's going, if it's a pop song and it's obvious, it's you know, if you just keep hearing that over and over, you just tune it out because you know where it's going. That's like every song on the radio, 4165, 1564, whatever it is, you know? It's the same chords they use in every country song. So babies don't learn from that. Babies learn from when they hear chords like this. That's what they learn from. They want to hear chords like that. So when Dylan was 3, and I said to him, hey, Dylan, sing me Star Wars. And he sang it. And I was like, that's in the right key. I tell this story all the time. And then he said, sing Superman theme. And he's like, ba, 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 ba. See, I don't have it. He sings that. And I was like, that's in the right key. And then he sings some other songs. I did 3 songs that were obviously in 3 different keys. And I was like, well, there's no possible chance that Dylan could sing 3 songs in 3 different keys at the same, back to back. There's no possible way unless he has perfect pitch. And then he came back here to the studio and I said, Dylan, what is this? And he said, that is Star Wars. Star Wars starts on a big B flat major chord. I played the note B flat. Then I played the note G, and he said, Superman. Instantly, I played the note C, and he said, the Excavator song. And if you look up the Excavator song on my channel, you'll see Dylan singing it. It's got like 100,000 views, but it's all kids. It drives parents nuts. It's a song Dylan used to sing all the time. It drove us nuts from a CD called 20 Trucks. Dylan sang all the songs on it. They have the Excavator and the oh, brother, you can't even imagine how many times we listen to this stuff. So once I realized that, I said, Dylan's got perfect pitch. Then I started teaching him the note names right then. I said, when you hear this note, that note's called B flat. Don't call it Star Wars, just call it B flat. Got it? You got it. This note here, Superman note, it's called G. Okay? Yeah, I got it. This note here, Excavator song, that's C. Got it? Okay. What note is that? And then he'd say some tune. What note is this? And he'd say another tune. What note is this? And I would tell him the names of the notes. 15 minutes, that was it. And he had it. That was all. Just like when I showed him the, Dylan, here's all the numbers, all the prime numbers between 1 and 100. How long can it take you to memorize it? And he looks at the sheet, 30 seconds. He's like, all right, I got it. I was like, all right, give it back to me. And he reads it, and he's boom, and he recites it all down, right from top to bottom. Goes all the prime numbers from 1 to 100. If I brought him down here right now, he'd do it for you. Or the periodic table of elements. It took him a day to do that, or 2 days. But he could recite it. After 2 days, he could recite it in under a minute. He did. I was like, Dylan, there's adults that were doing it, but I think I said on YouTube, the fastest I can find is 54 seconds. He said, oh, I can beat that. No problem. He was at 5. He wanted this cup stacking game or something that was like $40. And I was like, well, if you can memorize the periodic table of elements, I'll buy that for you. So that's all he needs is a challenge. He needed a goal. So he wakes me up the next day. He's like, okay, I got it. I was like, what? You're only up to like 50 yesterday. He memorized like 40 in the morning at 7:30. Wakes me up. He's like, I got the rest of them. Some of them are 5 syllables: praseodymium, neodymium, promethium, samarium, gadolinium. And it's the same thing. Okay, pitch memory is memory. All the ear training stuff that you're doing is memory. Okay, When I do a lecture here, I do it from memory. Or when I do any type of a class here, it's all from memory. If I say that, Prokofiev was born in 1891 and lived in 1953, or that Beethoven was born in 1770 and lived to 1827, or Bach was born in 1685, died in 1750, or Mozart was born in 1756, died in 1791. Like this kind of stuff, these are historical facts that to me are important enough to commit to memory, or were 35 years ago when I was in college, and I haven't forgotten them because they are, all this stuff is memory. Ear training, writing tunes, improvising, knowing that, in all the things you are, when you're on that F minor 7 chord, that B flat minor 7's coming up in a couple beats, in 4 beats. E flat 7's coming up after that. A flat 7, D flat, or A flat major 7, D flat major 7. If you're on giant steps and you're on B major 7, you got to know the D7's coming up, G major 7, B flat 7, E flat major 7. You got to know these things, and you got to visualize them and be able to, boom, just nail them right off the bat. Just like when you hear this chord, that's a Lydian augmented chord. You don't have to know that it's C over A flat or it's A flat Lydian augmented, but you should know that it's a Lydian augmented chord because you know the sound. So there's no showing off here. This is just memorization. That's all practice. Memory can be trained like a muscle is exactly correct. There's no, the more you study, the more you retain. So one of the things in school, I'm the school board at Dillon and Lennon School, and schools are not big into memorization anymore. When I was growing up, memorization was everything because we didn't have calculators. Literally had no calculators when I was growing up. You had to memorize, not only they make kids memorize their multiplication tables, but that's just about it. You need to have things committed to memory. And I don't just mean the sounds. I mean all this theory. When I say you can learn all the theory of music in 2 years, you can. That includes all classical theory and all jazz theory. Theory is theory, and it's a finite amount. Somebody said to me something about, what do you think about this? There's somebody wrote to me or asked me a question about some modal book. What do you think about this guy's modal book? I said, what else is there to say about modes? It's been said. Now there's people that can do original things and play, new things in them, but the theory of modes hasn't changed. Okay, it doesn't change. All the theory that's in my book, in my Beato book, for those of you that have bought it, I wrote it 30 years ago, but nothing has changed in music theory. I don't care if Jacob Collier calls it a meta beta whatever scale or whatever. These concepts are negative harmony or anything. I talk about sharp and flat direction modal modulations, which is this basically, if you go around the circle of fifths in a counterclockwise motion, things sound like they don't resolve. If you go in a clockwise motion, they don't resolve. If you go in a counterclockwise, they do resolve, right? If you think about the cycle, if you're playing a series of dominant chords that are resolving, C7, F7, B flat 7, E flat 7, A flat 7. But if you go C7, G7, D7, A7, they're not resolving, okay? They're secondary dominants. So when you go clockwise around the circle of fifths, you go in a non-resolving or a sharp direction. You're adding sharps. Doesn't matter whether you're on the flat side or not. If you're going from D flat to A flat, you're adding sharps or you're adding naturals. D flat, A flat, E flat, B flat. You can be on the flat side of it and still be moving in a sharp direction, okay? And it sounds like it's not resolving. Once you go back and go in a flat direction and start going counterclockwise around the circle of fifths, then things start to sound like they're resolving. Counterpoint is not tricky. Counterpoint is tricky. Counterpoint's not tricky. You basically have to memorize what the rules are, okay? And there are rules. They call them species of counterpoint. And, counterpoint is note against note, okay? And there are, I'm going to do a whole series on counterpoint, but it's not easy, it's not difficult if you understand the rules. And how do you understand the rules? You memorize them. It's just like anything else. Just like the sound, when I play that chord, I know the sound of it, or that chord, I know the sound of it. I know that 13 flat 9 sound right there. I just know it. I played that in the video for Dylan. He's like, it's 13 G13 flat 9. A flat. You sing the flat. I said sing the flat 9. He sings A flat. Not only did he sing the flat 9, he named the note. He says G13 flat 9. I said sing the flat 9. He sings the note A flat. Just like when he was in here, I asked him to sing A flat. So, all memorization. It's all practice. Everything can be learned if you practice it enough. Okay? There are certain things that are genetic that are difficult that certain people have a predisposition for. And a lot of it is technique. Okay, it's not things that are limited by memory. Certain people have incredibly natural technique. Most of it was developed there as children, though. These tremendous, if you look at Yuja Wang, who's a phenomenal classical pianist, she's just absolutely amazing. You see her play the Flight of the Bumblebee or any of her pieces that she does as her encore pieces that are just so insanely fast and accurate. You can't even fathom somebody could play this. And she's so relaxed and she's just killing it. Or Martha Argerich, who's 75, that's playing, Liszt piano concerto or the first Chopin piano concerto. Look at it. You can look at Martha Argerich. Type in Martha Argerich 2017. She's 75 years old. She was born in 1941. She's going to be 76 years old. She's playing concertos still. She's playing 35, 40-minute concertos from memory and killing them. She's playing the Prokofiev Third Piano Concerto, and the last movement does all these octaves moving in contrary motion, not missing them at all. And to be 75 years old, and I'm 55 years old, and I can't play. I could never, ever in a million years, no matter how much I practiced, be able to play that because I didn't do it when I was a baby. And so I can't do it. So there are certain things, and certain people just have monstrous fast twitch muscle fibers, like my friend Iden, that can play anything without practicing it. Yuja Wang, Martha Argerich, certain people just are genetically predetermined to have those kind of connections with the brain. Martha Argerich playing Scarlatti is just insane. You watch videos of Martha Argerich playing it in the 60s, playing it now, it doesn't matter. She's killing it every time, and she's so accurate on it. It's unbelievable. Anyways, so that's kind of my, I've gone on way longer than I thought here, but all this stuff is definitely, Martha Argerich did not train as other pianists. Martha Argerich, actually, I have her biography that her daughter did, that's called Bloody Daughter. It's fantastic. She took off 2 years when she was in her 20s. Who does that? A concert pianist. And then she came back and started playing him. She said she didn't play for 2 years. I mean, that's unfathomable. She's a freak of nature. There are recordings of her from 1950 when she was 9 playing Beethoven's first piano concerto with an orchestra. It's unbelievable. So, that's Dylan's age. Dylan can't play Beethoven's 9th piano concerto. These people are freaks of nature. Alan Holdsworth could play things that other people can't play. It doesn't matter how much they practice them. Certain people have that. All this other stuff, this theory, the ear training and everything, you can totally get. No problem. Absolutely. Just got to practice it. That's all for now. If you guys know people that you want me to get on here and want me to write, if you want to write to me and give me their emails or talk to them and make an introduction, I don't know that about Martha, if she has perfect pitch or not. I thought she did. I assume that she does. Dylan with Baroque recordings. It doesn't matter. It's tuned down at 415 is tuned down a half step. He'd say it was the note a half step lower. That always confused me when people always ask me about that. Well, what about 415? It's like it's A flat. It's not A. What's the difference? A pitch is, if you have perfect pitch, it's all based around a reference point of what your reference is. So my ear training course will be available. I can't tell you. It's not done yet. So I've got a few more episodes to film still. But it's all video. It's video with a book. Anyways, if you're interested in the Beato book or want to donate to my YouTube channel, you can write to me, rickbeato1@gmail.com. That's my PayPal also. If you want to donate $1, $5, $15, $100, you say, I believe in what you're doing, Rick. I want to support it. That'd be awesome. That's all for now. You guys are great. Thank you so much. Bye.